About 9 months ago, my MacBook Pro was stolen from my car, and I ended up replacing it with a refurbished MacBook Air M2. This video is the sequel to my original video where I tell the whole story. If you want to watch that video first, you can click the link above or below in the description. Without further ado, this has been my experience with the MacBook Air M2. First, let's talk about screen brightness. I found that the maximum screen brightness of my MacBook Air is noticeably a little dimmer than my former Pro. Since getting my MacBook Air, I've often caught myself instinctively trying to increase the screen brightness, only to find that it's already maxed out. I've realized that this is because I'm still used to the higher screen brightness capability of my former MacBook Pro. When I did a quick search on this, I found that MacBook Airs do in fact have a slightly lower maximum screen brightness than MacBook Pros. That said, the screen brightness has been good enough for the most part, and the overall screen quality has been great. I do wish that the maximum screen brightness was a bit higher though, particularly for watching movies and editing videos. 2. Portability. I remember taking my MacBook Pro on some pretty long trips. During those mini plane rides, I personally never felt like it was too bulky or a hassle to deal with. Then when I replaced it with my now MacBook Air, which has a 13-inch screen, I couldn't help but notice that it is much thinner and noticeably lighter, about 1.5 pounds lighter to be exact. So the MacBook Air is very light and portable, and it does get the slight edge in this category. 3. Performance when editing. Most would say that MacBook Pros are generally better than MacBook Airs for video editing, especially when it comes to complex video editing. Now, after doing a lot of video editing myself on this MacBook Air, I haven't really noticed much of a difference in terms of editing performance. Now, I think it's worth noting that my MacBook Air does have 24 gigabytes of RAM, which is uncommonly high and really helps it with its video editing performance. So it runs Final Cut just as well as my MacBook Pro did. If my MacBook Air only had 16 gigabytes of RAM or 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is more common, it may not run Final Cut Pro quite as smoothly as a MacBook Pro would, but could still be used for basic video editing. 4. General performance. Aside from video editing, I used my MacBook Pro and now MacBook Air for the same usual things as most of us: watching videos, taking notes, the occasional Zoom meeting, emails, etc., etc. Honestly, I didn't notice any difference in performance with those things, and also my MacBook Air battery life seems to be about the same as what my Pro's battery life was. I was initially worried that I may have issues with overheating because I knew that I would be doing a lot of video editing, and the MacBook Air doesn't have a cooling fan like the Pro. But to be honest, I've never had an incident where I felt like the computer was running really hot, and it does seem to deal with heat just as well as the MacBook Pro did. 5. Aesthetics. I have to say, I really like the way my MacBook Air looks. I love that midnight black color, and I really like the overall thin and sleek build of the computer's body, so I'd have to give the win to my MacBook Air in this department. I still sometimes miss the larger and brighter screen from my stolen MacBook Pro, and if I could have afforded it, to be honest, I probably would have got another Pro. But I found that my MacBook Air M2 has worked great and has been a great value for the money.